Welcome to the MMA Roadshow, episode number 163. My name is John Morgan at home in Las Vegas, Sin City. While my man Cold Coffee, where is he at? He is in Rio de Janeiro, the magical city? Is that what it's called? The marvelous city. The marvelous city. All I know is on the beach. I am jealous. My man is down there in Brazil. Rio de Janeiro is one of my absolute favorite cities on earth. Now, I say that understanding fully from all my Brazilian friends that live there. They will be happy to tell you that there's lots going on behind the scenes that makes it not the most fantastic place to live. And I get that. I understand the political issues. I understand the traffic issues. I understand the financial issues. I get it. It's not the best place in the world to live. But damn it, it is a wonderful place to visit, especially just to go there for a week covering a fight. Man, we always end up staying in a hotel right on the beach. So you put in the long hours, but then when you get done, you just walk right across the street. You dodge a few cars crossing the little avenue there, and you walk out on the beach, and there's a little kiosk where you can sit down on a plastic chair, order yourself a nice ice-cold liter of Original. And it's going to cost you about $1.50. Can't beat that. And I'm not there. But my man Cold Coffee is, listen, I made a big boy decision. You know, I'm 40 years old at this point, and I made a big boy decision. Saturday is my son's birthday. He's turning 6 years old. I've already missed 2 of his birthdays up to this point, and so I took myself out of the running for going down there to Rio de Janeiro. Sent the man Cold Coffee as well. He hooked up with, of course, Fernanda Prates, who lives in Rio, and they are busy covering UFC 224. Meanwhile, out in San Jose, California, our man Simon Samana was out there. Dave Mandel, the homie, the longtime Sherdog employee who has been just doing fantastic work for us anytime we get to call on him. He's handling business along with Simon Samana out there in San Jose, California. There's also One Championship 72 from Jakarta, Indonesia. Yeah, we don't have anybody covering that. But we do got people in Brazil. We do got people in California. So Saturday is a busy, busy day. I actually stayed home. I will have to work that night, no question about it. With 2 events going on simultaneously, I will definitely be helping out the team, but I will be doing it from the comfort of my own home. We're going to have a birthday party that morning for my son. But like I said, I missed 2 of his birthdays. I know exactly where I was. One, I was in Manila, and I said I'll never do this again. You know, next year I'll stay home. And the next year was the stadium show in Brazil, in Curitiba. And I'm like, well, I can't not go to a stadium show. I have to do that. So I ended up, even though I promised I wouldn't miss, I missed. And so now I've said, listen, I've grown up. I got to stay home. And you know what? I'm happy. I got to say, not to go too much into my personal life versus the MMA you're all here to listen to and talk about. But no, I felt good, man, to stay home. I just finished a field day for my son, so it was pretty awesome to be able to go to his school and do that, and you know, kind of running around outside all day. And yeah, I don't know if there's a fight you could put on where I'd skip my son's birthday again. You know, I'm sure if it was a Conor McGregor fight, we'd have to talk about it. You know, one of those, a return of Ronda Rousey. You know, the big click items, the one where my boss, you know, definitely tells me, John, you got to be there. If it was, you know, Mayweather, McGregor 2 or some nonsense like that, I'd have to figure out a way to be there. But, you know, maybe I could just bring them along for the ride. So it's been great. It's been a busy week. I have been on a little vacation. It is Thursday, as we always do, the MMA Roadshow. Just because I'm on a little mini staycation doesn't mean we're not going to put the podcast together. Come on now. I did take Monday through Thursday off, so I've been a little bit out of the loop. My wife went out to Phoenix to go see a Taylor Swift concert, and I was happy as hell she didn't make me go with her. I actually took her to a Taylor Swift concert before. I'm not gonna lie, it was at Cowboy Stadium. It was pretty entertaining. I'm gonna go ahead and leave my man card on the table if anybody wants to grab it. I'm going to understand. I'm going to understand where you're coming from, but it was entertaining. I mean, you know, you put on a show inside a football stadium, you got to do something pretty special, and it was entertaining. But I will say, second time around, I'm glad that she left me behind. But my mom came to town for a little visit. We hung out, take care of my son all week. And, yeah, we'll get back to work tomorrow. So thank you to the rest of the MMA Junkie team for manning the site while I was gone and enjoying. Now, of course, I'm a little bit of a workaholic, so I didn't fully get out of the loop. I've never been able to figure out how to just completely unplug from mixed martial arts. Fortunately, it's something I'm passionate about that I do work in, but just walking away from it, not going to happen. So the big news this week has definitely been for me the ESPN Plus deal for the UFC. I know there's fights to talk about, but this to me, big time news. Been a little surprised that all we got was the press release and not a lot of interviews. I was supposed to actually speak with UFC President Dana White. Had a phone interview set up for yesterday, which I was hoping to be able to play on this podcast right here. And unfortunately got rescheduled. And long-time listeners of the MMA Roadshow will know that the man Dana White does have to reschedule some things from time to time. Hoping that I can get something more with him, and really wouldn't even mind speaking to somebody else as well behind the scenes. And I told the UFC that. I mean, obviously, Dana's a great speaker and great ambassador for the company. But even if it's some of the guys behind the scenes, the Craig Borsars of the world, the Lawrence Epsteins of the world, the Dave Shaws of the world, that help bring all these things together. Even though they're not necessarily in the front lines a whole lot, I wouldn't mind speaking to them because still questions. I mean, to me, there's still a lot of questions to be answered. I get it. It's May. This thing doesn't even start till January, so we got a lot of time to figure out all the details of this. But to me, there are definitely some questions. Now, Ben Folks actually did a fantastic job. 5 burning questions. He wrote a little piece on. If you haven't read that, I think it's a good place to start because there are some questions about this whole deal. Now, right off the top, let me just say I think it's basically a home run for the UFC. For the UFC, I think it's basically a home run. They had this number figured out there that was hung out there from the beginning. There's investor documents that the MMA Junkie got a hold of, that some other places got a hold of. But they basically estimated that they thought they could get $400 million of revenue a year with the new TV deals. And a lot of people said, "Oh, you're crazy," and the numbers were coming out. It didn't look like it was going to be done. And now you got ESPN taking $150 million for 15 streaming shows. That is not even the TV deal yet. And I think most people realize that. But if you don't, make sure you recognize that this is just a streaming deal. This is not even the television rights yet. So now, you wanted to get that $400 million. You've already wiped $150 million off the deck. Now you just need to get $250. Maybe you don't get $250. Maybe you have to settle for another $150. Maybe you get another $200. But you're talking about a deal that averaged like $120 million, and now they're going to be talking about $350, maybe even $400 million. And that's just domestically. That's not international. Of course, pay-per-view is still there. So you don't have to be a huge business major to understand that there's a massive increase in revenue for the UFC domestically, and that's fantastic for them. They came in, they spent the money. I said it from the very beginning, and I truly believe this. Ari Emanuel, guys like that are as wealthy as they are, they don't take risk. They don't take $4 billion risks. To me, people that are that wealthy got so because they play with house money. They know what the numbers are. They know what the deal is going to be worth. And I said that all along. And maybe some of it was some blind faith, but you talk to people behind the scenes and just the understanding you get from the power. I mean, this thing is behind the scenes. There's so many things going on that as mixed martial arts journalists, we see a little sliver of the pie. We wouldn't even see the whole thing. So here's $150 million up front. So already financially, it's a home run, I think, for the UFC. The other thing that I think makes this a home run for the UFC is, yes, this is just a streaming deal. This is ESPN Plus, which, by the way, I went ahead and signed up. I wasn't signed up before, so they're already getting $4.99 a month out of me. I wanted to see what the service looked like, kind of what it already entails. And it does have a lot of other sports. I don't watch a lot of other sports anymore these days. I think mixed martial arts is pretty much engulfed my entire sports watching time, but I did go ahead and sign up for it just to kind of see what it was like and to feel it out a little bit. And it's a nice service, definitely, high quality streaming. They got a lot of offerings on there. But here's the thing is that ESPN now has a vested financial interest in this package as well and in the sport of mixed martial arts and more specifically the UFC. So ESPN has shown this time and time again. If they have a financial vested interest in a sport, they're going to show it more. They're going to spend more time with highlights, with interviews, they're going to feature that sport a little bit more. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, this is not, a news program that has ties behind the scenes with a politician and is only giving that politician time to speak. I mean, this is sports and entertainment. So, of course, if you're ESPN, why would you ever show a Bellator highlight? on your airways. I mean, if it's so over the top, amazing, if it's, I mean, and granted, they've got some fantastic athletes that do have some fantastic moments that have been featured on there. But if you're now broadcasting the UFC, why would you bother showing Bellator? Why would you bother showing Professional Fighting League? Fighters League, excuse me. Will they? I don't know. I mean, if it's a good highlight, if it's a damn good highlight, I think you still should. But maybe they'll only show the UFC from now on with their highlights. And even then, if nothing else, they'll definitely show more UFC. You definitely will maybe get a few more highlights during SportsCenter, a couple more pieces here and there other than just the line, the little ticker across the bottom. And I think that's a win. I think that's a win for the UFC. And to be honest, I think it's a win for mixed martial arts as a whole. Just getting more eyeballs, getting the sport out there in front of people, keeping it, alongside the major sports. It's always going to be a niche sport, but keep it alongside the major sports. Keep it mentioned there. I think this is a win. I think this deal is a win. And, I'm sure when we do speak to Dana or whoever it may be, they'll probably echo those sentiments. The ESPN brand is still pretty special. I know that they're having some financial issues, and I can see, if you want to start arguing, people could say, oh, they're losing subscribership. And I see all those things out there. I do. I see all those things out there, and I get it. But some of the subscribership loss is due to people cutting the cord, and I think this ESPN Plus will allow people to kind of dial back into ESPN. But what I'm getting at is the ESPN brand, to me, is still a special brand. It really is. I mean, when the UFC was getting into video games, THQ, okay, whatever, fantastic. But when they got with EA Sports, right, I mean, that's a brand name. And you can get to the experts that can argue one's better, one's not, this, that, whatever. But ESPN is a brand name that has meaning, that means something. And I think it's special. So this is ESPN streaming. That means on their broadcast they're going to show more of it because they want to refer people to ESPN Plus. They want to get people a reason to watch ESPN Plus. So I think this is a win all the way around for the UFC. Now, what I'm still curious about is for the fans. I mean, if we're looking at this right, it does seem like one more streaming service that we're going to have to pick up. Now, I don't know what's going to be left on UFC Fight Pass. Will there be Fight Pass only events in addition to these ESPN Plus events? That's a question we didn't answer. Now, internationally, there's going to be markets where I don't think ESPN Plus exists, and so I'm speaking more domestically. Does this mean that now you have to have Fight Pass, or is it you really only need Fight Pass if you want to watch, the Invictus of the world, the Eddie Bravo Invitationals of the world, the everything that they show outside? Because if that's the case, that's going to be a tough sell because you're taking an already fractured audience and you're fracturing even more. So from a fan point of view, that's a little interesting. Are we going to need to have Fight Pass and ESPN Plus? Because if so, it's not perfect. It's not perfect. If you can get them for the same price, and I haven't seen that yet. Now that would be slick. If you could, if by having ESPN Plus, you could get Fight Pass for a discounted price that left them both at the same price, because the ESPN Plus is $5.90 or $4.99 a month, whereas Fight Pass is $9.99 now. If they could give it to you for that flat $5, whatever, and you get for $9.99, you get both. Boom, I'm in all day. I'm in. I like that. Hopefully that's what they can do, but that's a question. I haven't seen that yet, and that's a question I definitely want to ask. What is the future of Fight Pass? Are you going away on it? We still don't know how many events this means. This 15, is that a piece of the pie that already existed? Have we bought a new pie that we got 15 slices out of? I mean, are we doing more events? Is this the same number of events? I don't know. Let's see. We got to find out. There's other questions. What does this mean for production? Is it still being done in-house? Does Zuffa Boxing play into any of this stuff? The Ultimate Fighter. Didn't see any of that listed. Is that still for the broadcast plan, or is that starting to go away? Will any of this money trickle down to the fighters? Can we expect a bump in fighter pay? I don't know. I mean, they got a lot of overhead. The UFC has a lot of overhead. So will they filter some of that down to the bottom line? You think there's at least some of it available? I mean, you could at least take up the minimums a little bit, right? So A lot of things going on here. A lot of things going on here. A lot of variables. I mean, this just happened. We've got a big chunk of the news. We don't have all the news. And the other thing, of course, is, again, the broadcast part of the deal is still out there. That's huge. Okay? It sounds – the things that I've heard is that Fox is still very interested in keeping this, but not at the prices that the UFC wanted, and maybe this allows them to get it at the price they wanted. If so, man, can you imagine? I mean, the rest of this year, if you have a lame duck partner, can you imagine Fox Sports not only knowing that, well, we're giving up rights at the end of the year, but we're giving up rights to, where the digital streaming side of this is on one of our biggest competitors. Ugh, I can't imagine what kind of partner they would be. I can't imagine. But, NBC is being thrown out there as interested. I mean, would NBC have gone in on the PFL? I mean, not to say that they're all in on the PFL and they spent so much money that they don't have money for the UFC, but it seems weird to carry the UFC and PFL, right? I mean, maybe you could put them in harmony. And the PFL is going to run on Thursday nights. So you could do, the Dana White's Contender Series. Well, the Dana White's Contender Series is going online to ESPN, so you don't have to worry about that. Maybe it would just be more Saturday. But I don't know. That seems weird to me. If it gets done and it stays on Fox, I mean, that's pretty cool for the UFC to be on Fox Sports and ESPN. I mean, the two leading sports networks out there. That'd be a pretty big deal, and I think a good thing for the UFC and a good thing for mixed martial arts because, again, more eyeballs, being put alongside the big sports. I think that's key. Just continue to push the legitimacy, continue to push the meaning of it. I think that'd be good, but it is going to be hard. Man, it is going to be hard for people to find the fights, what time they come on, where they are, what channel, what streaming service. And that, to me, is a question mark for the fans. I mean, I get it. The fans of this sport are pretty educated, and they're pretty educated online with how to access everything. But it's just a pain in the ass to switch from one to another to another to another. Where is it at tonight? Where is this one at? So there's questions. But overall, I do honestly feel like this is a great thing for the UFC. And I guess we'll basically just see how things play out over time. But that's certainly the big news for me. And even being off for a couple of days, I couldn't help but try to get an interview with Dana White. So we'll try to get an interview with the UFC exec. And just get some more thoughts on this, see what they can answer. I'm sure there's still some things to be worked out. I'm sure there's still some details to be had. But I think it's a plus. I really do. I think I'm judging from the outside looking in, I think the UFC can chalk up a win here. I know everybody's been worried about the UFC, but I think they can chalk up a win here. Listen, this past weekend, with this weekend being a UFC and a Bellator week, this past weekend was a non-Bellator and non-UFC week. But I watched everything. I thought it was great. With it being kind of a slow weekend, it let me watch some of the other MMA. Sometimes I have to go back and catch up on DVR or watch some things, and it's not quite as exciting when you're watching it live, man. Even for me, even somebody that loves MMA, I got to have that live experience. So it's kind of cool to be able to watch everything. I did want to mention, just a couple performances that really stuck out to me, that if you're playing catch up after a week off, do so. Kyoji Horiguchi with a fantastic win. I mean, 9 seconds over Ian McCall. Got to feel bad for Ian McCall. Kind of came out afterwards and said maybe the sport is passing me by. But Kyoji Horiguchi, I've always been a fan of this guy. I thought he was rushed, of course, into a title shot in the UFC. It did not pay out for him. He did go all the way to the end with Demetrius Johnson, but of course he was losing that fight. But undefeated since then. He continues to pick up wins outside the UFC. 9 seconds. You can't ask for anything much better than that. And Kyoji Horiguchi, a guy that, man, worth watching, worth keeping your eye on. Don't know if he ever comes back to the UFC. I really don't. The guy makes good money in Japan. He's treated like a superstar there. He's headlining cards. He's the guy. He's the focus. He's the feature. And I think that means something. I don't think he's a fame whore by any stretch of the imagination, but it helps the paychecks. It helps his marketing opportunities. It helps a lot of ways to be the guy. And he's the guy. And, even if he could get paid the same amount to come to the UFC, I don't know that he's as valuable to the UFC as he is Rizin fighting over there. I think it's a win-win on both situations. He can make more money and he's more valuable, so they can sell the hometown guy, the homegrown guy. I would love to see him back at the UFC someday. I'd love to see him fight Demetrius Johnson again someday. Not that I'm picking him. I mean, Demetrius Johnson, to me, greatest pound-for-pound fighter on the planet right now. But he was rushed into the fight the first time around. I think he's better now. And I think it might be, maybe it'd be a more competitive matchup at this point. At least it'd be a top considering those. Not that DJ doesn't have other people to fight. He does have some other people to fight. But I would like to see that at some point. I really would. Invicta SC29 took place over the weekend as well. Sarah Kaufman picked up the vacant women's bantamweight title. Looked very, very good doing it as well. Was incredibly impressed with her performance. She is shining outside of the UFC as well, and certainly thought that she deserves some praise for that performance. And I enjoyed watching it, to be honest with you. It's good to see her dominant. I know she hasn't always felt like she got treated especially well in her time in the UFC, and I think it's good to see her doing good things outside the UFC as well. And there was an Access TV fight as well, LFA 39, and I'll tell you the one that most stuck out to me was Macy Barber. Macy Barber, just a teenager, looking like an absolute vicious animal. Says she wants to be the youngest champion in UFC history. Remember the name if you haven't seen this performance. She's fought 4 times now under the LFA banner. She's 4-0. She's had 3 stoppages along the way. She looks like the real deal, and I think it's a name to remember, Macy Barber. All right, listen, like I said, I'm just chilling here in Las Vegas. It's fun, but this is the MMA Roadshow. You don't want me to just sit here and talk about MMA. You want to hear from things that are happening on the road. And in order to do that, you got to take it down to Rio de Janeiro. To my man Cold Coffee, lining things up in Rio. A new hotel. They stayed in a new hotel, a different area. I'm bummed. Like I said, Rio, one of my favorite cities on earth to go work in, one of my favorite cities on earth to go visit. I'm not there, but Cold Coffee is.
Well, thank you, John, very much. And yes, here we are in Rio at the lovely Windsor Marapendi, not the Windsor Baja that we normally stay at, but I am joined by our wonderful, normal Rio guest extraordinaire, Fernanda Prates.
Hello. Yes, it's a new hotel, but it's basically the same thing. I don't know why we're making a thing out of it, but apparently
it's brand new and shiny. The internet works pretty decently here.
It's like 2 blocks away. But okay, if we were making
a little bit further than 2 blocks.
Yeah,
2 Brazilian blocks,
maybe 3.
So you get like 3 stabbings, 4 shootings, and 10 hookers along the way.
I've never been stabbed once. So that's what I'm saying.
That's a boring life.
But I'm saying I've been living in Rio for long enough that's. But yeah, it's a new hotel. Sorry guys, I just brought this.
Oh, speaking of hotel, what's that? What is that? Let me go to the door real quick. Oh.
Hello!
Well, goodness me. This hotel happens to also be where Fiasco Jones is staying.
This is amazing.
Fiasco, what's up, brother?
Not much. I heard someone talking about hookers along the road.
Well, you've seen it. This is a new location. I'm sure you actually, to go behind the curtain, we're asking if those were hookers we just passed on the way home from the steakhouse.
I'm pretty convinced, even though feminist Fernanda says probably just women trying to get from point A to point B.
Yeah,
I think point B is a transactional sex operation.
What is happening?
What is happening? Well, welcome to Rio, guys. The weather
is not Rio, though. Okay, sorry. Okay, go ahead,
guys. Are you
guys.
Gonna get all like, oh, this is not Rio, folks. We're in Baja de Tuaca. We're blah blah blah. You're gonna get all like snobby on us now.
I'm just gonna play along with it. Let's
all right, we're not in Rio, everybody. We're not in Rio. We are here.
We're like in the Tempe
We're in a beach town somewhere near Rio.
No, we are in Rio. I'm just saying that your definition of Rio is like the GTA game. Like, it's not how it happens.
Okay, this is why we brought Rio. I'm sorry, Fernanda onto the show to bring her personality with her this evening.
She's bringing some fact checking to the show.
Well, besides, they still have the cabana across the street with the cold beers, and that's always good. Unfortunately, we don't have Mr. Morgan here with us, so nights end a lot sooner. We're getting to bed a lot earlier, and we're imbibing a lot less beers.
This is true.
This is
There
true.
have still been beers.
There's a
though.
few
Yeah.
frosty
But
beverages have happened.
I think a healthy amount.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like before, right before you crest regret and
Yeah.
headaches, we're at that point.
We're at
Like,
that point.
I'm right there. I've already gotten my headache right
Yeah.
now, early.
Well, my headache's slowly building
Yeah.
right as this podcast has continued. So we're getting there. We're getting there. All right, well, let's jump to this week's activities. We landed on Tuesday. Well, Fernando drove into town on Tuesday. We had our early interviews, and you'll hear one of those here towards the end. Well, actually, yeah, you'll hear one towards the end. It was great. I mean, normally we get into a place and we have to kind of get a little time to settle in, but our schedules kind of worked out that we pretty much hit the ground running. And Fernando, you did a great job, set up some interviews for us to have. What were some of your favorites out of it? And if you guys haven't heard these interviews, go to MMAJunkie.com and you can see all the sit-down interviews that we did with Fernanda. She was a little bit shy, didn't want to be on the camera, but, we lit her up real well, and I thought she did a wonderful job. So were there any favorite interviews that you had?
I think the most intriguing / puzzling / interesting / frightening maybe was Vitor Belfort. That was the highlight, I think, just because it was just like there was so much going on, and you guys know, like when you interview Vitor long enough, you come to expect with every fight week he comes in with a different like message, I guess, to get across. And this time though, like I kind of, instead of just trying to like narrow that interview down, I just kind of like went with it. And I think that after it was done, I was a bit confused as to what had happened, but I think it amounted to a pretty interesting one. But all of them, I think Amanda Nunes was a good one. I think that Amanda is a champion that most people don't really get a chance to know her personality that well. She's
Right.
not that out there. She's a more reserved person, I think. Outside of fight week, you don't hear much from her. So I think that we were able to, just get a glimpse of her personality, which is interesting.
And I think that came out more, too, at the open workouts that
Yeah,
followed
for
the day
sure.
after. She really embraced the fact of kind of coming out there. The crowd gave her a good pop. She did her little champion sort of walk when she first got onto the mat, and it was great because I love when, she's done so well in the States of being a good spokesperson for the sport. A lot of times she goes to these events and different things, and she's not getting the pop a lot of times as her opponent is.
Yeah.
And coming here and doing it here in heel, she's getting that pop that you want to see a fighter get, So I was happy for her to kind of get that, So it's good to see her personality get out because I think a lot of times she's so business oriented. She's very much about the fight. She's very much
for
doing
sure.
business. So
Yeah, I
she
agree
doesn't
with you,
she
yeah.
doesn't come out of her shell as much, but she's been really embracing it. And she even said in your interview, getting these wins, she wants to share that moment. That's one of the things that she was looking forward to was the moment after seeing the crowd and being able to share that elation with the crowd. And I think it was a wonderful sentiment that she said. So that was great. But yeah, that was definitely one of the good ones. I thought your interview with Raquel was also very good.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Like Raquel is one of those people that she's hard to get out of her shell. Like she's not enthusiastic, like she's not that really bubbly personality, but then when you start talking to her, like she's actually quite warm and she's open. Like you just have to pay attention to what she's saying. So I really enjoy, Kenny was like really pissed because we went way overboard. I ended up talking to her for like 17 minutes or
You're
so.
like, can we keep these? We normally do these 6 to 8 minutes. We'll get in, we'll get out. And
I got way carried away there,
Yeah.
but just because I was, I was interested because she was giving me so much more than I guess I expected at first. So
and it's
that was
funny,
a good one.
And it's funny too because it's one thing when you get a fighter to talk about the fight. They hear it so much that I think they get, it's old stuff that they're just like, oh, again. But what topic did you bring up that she really got just lit up about
Tisha?
when you started talking about
Yeah.
Tisha? So I think that's what tends to happen when you talk to a fighter about their personal life, things outside, whether it be their dog, their other occupation that they might do, or their family. That's where you get to see a lot of personality come out because they're like, thank God you're not asking me again.
Sometimes it's good, like with her, or sometimes that's bad, like with Michael McDonald and like carving things out of wood.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, we're not that interested in that, kid. But
You never know. There might be. I'm sure there's quite a few listeners of the MMA Roadshow that are wood carvers out there.
I'm really sorry that I offended you guys.
Yes, thank you for the two of you.
I'm personally offended. That's really pretty much all I do.
Fiasco likes to carve wood.
Really
He
sorry.
likes to carve wood.
Well, all the power to you. But
call it whittling.
yeah, I always that's the thing that I always look for when I'm interviewing someone, and sometimes it backfires a little bit because sometimes the fighters are not that comfortable sharing those things with
Sure.
me. But
And those sometimes
yeah.
are the hard times because you don't want to pry too much, but that's
Yeah.
also where you want to connect to these guys.
Yeah,
Guys
exactly.
and gals, I mean, like, this is their life. You know, they work so hard, and a lot of times they sacrifice time with their loved ones. So I feel by sometimes us engaging them with that, it gives them a moment to
Absolutely.
kind of give thanks back to their partners.
I think so.
You know, their families. So,
Yeah.
but that's usually, it's great. But yeah, I thought she lit up like a light bulb, and that's why we end up running an extra like 8 minutes towards the end. Because you found a topic that you really wanted to talk about, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we could talk, you know, have her talk about the fight with Amanda or the fight with Cyborg and all that bullcrap till she turns blue in the face. But once she started talking about Tisha, that was actually pretty funny, you know, especially when we were talking about the diet and how when they go shopping, you know, she'll look one thing and
the
then
funny thing is
Tisha
that
looks like she
Tisha's the
can...
straw weight,
Yeah.
but she's the one who gets to have ice cream. So
Yeah.
she would say, like, they go grocery shopping, and then Raquel's card is like the grown-up card, and
Right.
Tisha's card is like the children card, with like
Yeah.
ice cream and all the treats and things like
And
that.
she's like, if she wants to see her abs, she'll just diet for one day. I'm like, oh yeah, that's just like me. Just like me. They're in
If
there, so
only
my
I could
diet.
diet for an entire day.
So, all right. Well, I thought the interviews were great, and thank you to the PR team for allowing us to kind of do that. You know, sometimes it's nice to be able to go into place and kind of settle in and get the lay of the land and feel it. But so that one was kind of we just hit the ground running, but I thought that went good. And then we followed it up and had the open workouts, which was in. Do you remember what the name of the mall was?
It's Baja Shopping. It's a pretty big one, and
Yeah.
it's one of the biggest and most traditional ones here.
Yeah,
in
it was
Rio.
nice. I mean, it had the multiple different food courts, and I remember we walked to a different food court, and it literally felt like we walked for like half a mile before
Katie's
we
just
found it.
talking about the food court.
Yeah, well, I'm getting to that. I'm describing
walking
the
to the
size.
food court.
And walking to the food court,
That
lugging
says a
my
lot.
gear.
That paints a very
and then that's all that happened at the mall. We went to the food
End
court.
of the story. It's the worst walk I've ever had in my entire life. I felt I was gonna die if I didn't get there.
But
and
then there was food at the end of it.
But then
so
there
that
was food,
okay.
and then it was good story. But no, it was great. All right, so this center section where they had the mat set up had a couple different upper layers levels where the railing wrapped around, so people were able to kind of lean over and look down at all their favorite fans. We had fighter fans wrapped around on the bottom. It was a pretty decent media turnout. I mean, like, we were kind of stuck into a location because the way that the Brazilian PR staff does it a little bit different than some of the U.S. staff is they put these
Shade.
what do you call it stanchions and stuff or whatever, the piping or whatever you call those ropes.
Stanchions is correct, yeah.
So you couldn't get to the stage. And so rather than be able to kind of just flow around and get all the different shots like we normally do, they kind of roped it off. So once you got to an area, you were kind of stuck. So that kind of sucks for us, but that's just us talking shop or whatever. But there was kind of that funny moment later on with the lights where one of the lights, the LED lights went all wacky and went into like disco mode. And, and I think it was during Amanda's workout, and it starts changing lights and it was strobing out. And I was just like, oh, this is so Brazil. And it had like a weird like purple light. I'm throwing shade. Hey, if I'm not in Hio, I'll throw shade.
days.
I got nothing but shade. You do one event a year and you can't do it right.
Okay,
But
yeah,
that's shade.
That was not.
That's shade.
That was not taking shots at Brazil at all. That was.
But besides that, it was a
Well,
decent
besides
event,
everything
right?
that sucked, it was decent.
Yeah. Besides
But
that, it
that's
was
just
okay.
getting even criticism on anything, though.
Yes.
It's like whenever I do something, it's like it was fine. Like, that's the best I'm gonna get.
Well, and I always find it funny when they put a time frame. They're like, okay, this is going to start on this, and it's going to end on 7:30.
That's Brazil time for you,
Which
though.
is ridiculous, though. Still, like,
I agree.
You know, why put out a schedule? Just say, all right, here's a random time range of when we think we're going to end.
That-
It was supposed to
Because
end.
no one will
That's
show up.
life here.
Supposed to
No one will
end
show
around
up and they're like,
7.
if it's question mark.
Because
But
that's
still, but don't
essentially
you wanna-
life for us.
But change the life.
I agree.
You put a thing
I
there.
am
I mean,
all-
like,
I'm
you're
all
not
in.
savages. You have a time frame. Follow the time frame.
Yeah,
You're
I-
not filthy animals. like some American said once. This is not that
Very
American.
loudly in front of a packed
in front
arena.
of a packed Brazilian crowd. But yeah, so they were supposed to finish around 7:30ish or 8. I think we got out there after 9.
And we were like dying of starvation.
Yeah, it was not the prettiest, but it was really neat. It was the crowd, I think, appreciated it.
Yeah.
Who got the biggest pops, you think?
Jacare.
Jacare got a
Yeah.
huge pop from
And
the
Vitor.
crowd. And I was Vitor
Vitor.
did. But sometimes I think they were loving his dog. Sometimes I think she gets a big pop too. Everybody's like, "Oh, cute
That's like
dog."
cheating, right? Like, I'm just gonna
Yeah,
bring my
he
cute
totally cheated.
dog
He brought
with
a
me.
cute dog with him, so he
No,
cheated.
I think it was the timing too, because like when if I remember correctly, the first one was Lyoto was the first stop.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
that's like it wasn't that crowded yet. So
Yeah.
that makes it was a little bit empty.
He also made
pretty
a
well-known guy.
theatrical mistake. He led off with yoga and stretching. No, this isn't
He
for
lost
that.
us there.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
come in blazing hot, guns hot, and
Okay.
you just start throwing kicks. That's
That's ultimately what I think people want to see. I mean, I like it when the fighter's like, "All right, fuck it, I should be cutting weight. You're gonna take me away from my workout. I'm gonna actually get a workout." And Tony Ferguson is like one of those guys that did it. Conor back in the day, before Conor became superstar Conor, used to put like an hour workout. The dude would like he would like literally work out. That's where you see some of these guys stretch. I'm like, okay, he's gonna get into
But
it.
Lyoto
Yeah.
went into it afterward. What
He
I'm
did a
thinking is
little
like,
bit.
yeah,
he did a little bit.
But
He
I
didn't really
think
go
they
crazy.
put like time limitations on them.
Yeah.
I think that's why you know.
Put time limitation, even though he showed up like super late.
But if you see, none of them like lasted that long. I think it was more the gap between them.
Yeah, there was. Yeah, and I think some of the others were just like, because I think they had them scheduled for like 15-minute slots. So I think
Yeah.
some of them came
It's
in
funny.
were like expecting to be like
I was
in and
cage
out.
side, and there was because thankfully the Pepsi company sent me here for whatever reason.
I love it
VIP
when
passes.
Pepsi sends you here.
I know, I do too. It's a fun reward for hard work. So there was a point where Lyoto's like, "I'm done," and the people on the side were like, "You just like you gotta
Really?
keep going. You gotta keep going." He's like, "But
I'm
and then
done.
he went back. That's when he came back out and did some shadow boxing.
Okay.
And then he like sort of
Then he just
sparred around with like Chinzo a little
yeah,
bit.
and then
after
he stopped again, and then they're like, "All right, fine," because they're like, I think the idea was they're like, "You're really late," and they waited, and they were only gonna give him like 5 minutes
yeah.
of.
It was kind of interesting how they brought him down the elevator. So there was like those dramatic moments where everybody would like see a pile of people in the elevator, and they're like, "Who is it? Who is it?"
Yeah.
You know, so that was kind of interesting, you know, for what it was. But so that was good. I mean, it was interesting. I always love when they do some of those
the
fan
public,
forward
yeah,
things, and
for
they
sure.
actually have a good turnout, and
Yeah.
that they actually were into it, and the fans seemed into it. So good on them to give them something. And people, I haven't heard anything about the community event that happened. Was that yesterday or today? How that went? But the UFC did another community event with Big Nog, I believe. So hopefully that went good. But yeah, there was a good turnout for the open workouts and stuff. But today we had media day, and they brought the main card fighters, and so we got to talk to some more fighters today. And then we had the media day face-offs, uneventful face-offs. No animosity. Nobody
Yeah.
was
What
jumping
are you
anybody's
talking
face.
about? That cringeworthy moment of hostility between Amanda Cooper and Mackenzie Dern.
Oh, the
handshake.
handshake.
Yeah,
That
it's just-
was intense.
That
Oh,
sent shivers
jeez.
to the entire crowd. And they're like, what's happening?
And the good thing is that the first time, so Mackenzie reached out the first time, and then Cooper sort of ignored her. But it wasn't on
I
his
don't- she didn't
mistake.
see it. She
The
just didn't see
minute she saw it, she replied, because
Yeah.
people like, ooh, almost, and then Cooper replied, and all was good. And then they did the face off, and then Mackenzie went for the reach once more, and Cooper just walked away. I don't think it was a diss. I think
No,
she
I don't.
just
I think.
didn't
I
see
think.
it.
Yeah, because I think her back was completely turned at
Yeah,
that point. Because they were.
that's what it looked like.
Because they do the part where they face off and they're squaring at each other, and then you've all seen this, and then they turn outward towards
head
the
to the
media
stairs.
and stuff.
Yeah.
But then Amanda just spun to the left, and right at the time when she spun into the left, Mackenzie turned back for that thank you shake. And then it was just how the
But
crowd sort of like
Mackenzie
went,
took
ooh.
it- she took
and
it
then
in
Mackenzie,
stride.
oh,
Yeah,
she
she
did.
was like,
she was
shoot.
awesome. She just kind of
Like,
laughed.
okay, so this is what happened. I was left hanging. That's life. I'll
Yeah.
just move on.
So it was kind of funny. But yeah, besides, all right, I forgot that huge dramatic,
That was the
dramatic
shoot.
moment.
Gallagher
there.
tried to be like a little, but the thing with him was like Yeah, he was being more aggressive, I guess, in the
Well,
lead up.
he was trying
But
to.
he was friendly.
Well, like when they
during
were
the-
first walking, it looked like he was trying to do like one of those like little wrestling moves, like they were gonna go down for wrestling.
the leg, yeah.
Where John in his mind was just like, I got to somehow get on that side because I've shaved
Because
UFC
of the shit. That was
into
so
my head.
cute.
And I think Keller was like, what
switched
is
sides.
going on here? But he
was
took it
so
in stride. I
cool.
think he saw it and was like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, I get it, I
Yeah.
get it. But no, I thought they were was great and was cordial.
Yeah, it was amicable. It was.
There was nobody there that I felt that there was like any like fireworks coming in. Like
Vitor-
there's no hatred from
But Vitor
anybody coming
Belfort
in.
wearing the, I saw a bunch of memes on that.
Oh,
On
did you?
With the
Belfort and
bathrobe?
Yeah, if you
Leoto,
guys
like,
haven't seen him,
don't you ever
Leoto
step
came
on
in
my
the
lawn again. It was
Leoto
like,
was wearing a bathrobe. What did it say on the back of it?
Belfort. It said,
Yeah, sorry, Vitor.
I did not wake up today to be mediocre. And then he was fully committed to the retired look, right? So he was wearing the bathrobe, the like sweatpants type thing, and then he was wearing sandals
Or like UFC slippers, I think.
with like squared socks.
Yeah.
So he was just, and he had a mug. I didn't even see it at
Yeah.
the time, but afterward he was. So I thought it was brilliant. It's like
He
this
went
is
all
my
in.
last day on the job, and I don't care. This
Yeah.
is how I'm gonna show up.
And every interview I've had with him so far is definitely like I have short timers disease. Like when you're trying to get like a hype, like a sound bite for like some hype.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, it's a fight. Fights are fights. I've done so many fights. It's like, what am I gonna do? I'll worry about it when I'm in the fight. I'm like, that's just not really a sizzling sound bite. But all right, thank you. That's all I'm gonna get from you.
But that was we didn't get a single sizzling soundbite from him, but that's why our interview was just so interesting. I think, but yeah, that was never like, and that was my first question. So is this like, can we call that your retirement fight? Like, it seems like a simple enough question, and it was like,
Nothing
no,
simple.
it's a retirement. I'm not retired. I'm like, okay. But it is my final fight. And then he explained.
Yeah.
But the memes were, to me, the best thing. Like, that was it. Like, when you wait, one of them was this one that I just mentioned. Like, well, when it's your last day on the job and it just don't give a fuck anymore. Like, there was this whole look. There were montages going on. I fully advise you guys to go on Twitter
Yeah,
and
I'm
just
gonna have to
go
check it out.
Vitor
I had no
Belfort.
idea. I had no
You're
idea.
gonna- yeah, it's gold. It's
I
gold,
love it.
Jerry. It's gold.
I love it. So tonight we went for the second time to the Brazilian steakhouse. I know Fernanda's, informed us that it's not the greatest steakhouse, but it has improved since the last time
It
we
has.
were here.
It's
Normally
okay.
when we stayed at the Windsor Baja down the street, it's literally just a walk around the corner.
Yeah.
Now it's just a little bit slight drive down the street, but they have improved a little bit. But for the current exchange rate, at like 3-ish to 1, the steak dinner or the all-you-can-eat steak dinner was like 79 Brazilian dollars. But for us, the equates
Brazilian dollars.
whatever Brazilian
It's called
currency.
the real.
Hey,
We have a currency.
I don't even call it that.
It's
I call it the
not-
reais.
Oh, another American who thinks the world revolves
it
around
is what
him.
we call
It
it.
is
Western
what it is.
chauvinism.
Yeah, you're the only ones who use Fahrenheit. Go suck a Fahrenheit dick,
That's
you
right.
assholes. That don't make any sense. I'm sorry, guys. I
They're
got
gonna have
carried
to change
love
the
it.
rating on the iTunes now.
No, it's already explicit just for this moment. All right, so we had the
Sorry.
steak dinner, which was good.
The steak, everything was a steak dinner there.
It was just one long,
Well, we had-
protracted steak dinner.
right. Well, they had some veggies and stuff that you could mix in.
which is
in
what
between.
I had, but
Yeah, that's what we did. That's what we do. But no, it was good. So I thought that was good. But besides that, there's not many other options besides hotels around here. I mean, granted, we haven't really explored too many areas, but
No, we have not.
we're kind of. I know I'm personally like a creature of comfort. So like, if I know a place, I'm like, I will hit it every other
I've
night.
become aware of that over the years.
Yes.
That
Well,
you guys will eat like in the same place.
Like, don't put a Nando's
every day.
nearby. Don't put a
Or-
Nando's nearby.
Yeah, I
or
haven't tried it
Morgan
yet,
and those
but,
guys will
yeah.
go there literally every day.
Every
of the
single day. I've realized that, but
That's
yeah.
how we do.
I realized personally how extreme you were about this Chescaria place, because after the first night I was like, I can feel my cholesterol rising. I think I have an embolism just forming right now. And then he's like, let's go back again the next day. I'm like, the next day, like, let's just give it a rest. Let's go on break. And then we went back today. I'm like, I don't know, my body can handle this. I can have a headache now, an unusual headache. I don't know why I'm having a headache, but
Well,
The
I
meat
think
sweat.
It's the
not,
meat
it's
sweats.
beyond meat
Which-
sweats. I'm
what did-
all
what did we
clogged
decide?
up with meat.
what did we say what the meat sweats would be called in Portuguese?
Suadeira da carne.
Yeah, sounds so much better than meat sweats.
Yes. It does.
This is not sexy at all, guys.
It sounded pretty
I've
good.
heard people. I will say like the weirdest shit in Portuguese, and people that sounds sexy. Like no,
Say it one more time for everybody.
No.
Meat sweats.
suadeira da carne.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love it.
How much for that?
All right, before we
Actually, it's like 670 reais, so you can get
Yeah.
that easily.
And a lifetime of regret.
well, before we start to wrap it up, Fernanda, give the listeners an update. How is Brazil doing? Sometimes when we've come down
How's Brazil?
here.
That's fucking intense. Here.
Well, I mean, sometimes we come down here. Literally, there were like road blockages and like active protests. Some of the last times we've been here, but like, what's going on in this area? How are things going on in Brazil? How are the Brazilian people right now?
This is very intense. Like, I cannot speak on behalf of the country of
I
Brazil.
think you can if you tried.
I can, on behalf as the spokesperson who Brazil nominated to speak.
They did. I saw it in the
We
paper.
are on the shitter. It's turbulent times. Like since we've had the coup, which some people call the impeachment, but it was the coup, and it's politically it's been rough for Brazil, and we're kind of at that stage and also economically. So it's I mean, it's a lot like you guys. Like, it hasn't been easy for you guys either, like, right now. So it's just a time that it can, I think that we're going through a time that can really make us politically if we use it to mobilize ourselves. But it can also really be awful. So,
That's what I like to hear.
yeah, so that's how we're going through delicate times. It's very complicated. I cannot say all of what Brazil is going on in just these couple of minutes, but if you guys are interested, I can send you links. We can talk about it on Twitter.
Yeah, if people don't follow you and know how to get more info, where should they follow on Twitter?
I'm at Nanda Prates. It would be NANDAPRATES, and I have an underscore, which I absolutely hate, but apparently there's another Fernanda without an underscore, and she's an egg. She doesn't tweet anything.
An egg?
She's just over there taking up space in a perfectly good Twitter name.
Is that a Portuguese saying? A colloquialism?
egg.
An egg?
Yeah, like
You
on
can-
Twitter.
you
Like
can-
no tweets?
Yeah,
Oh,
when
so
you
you're
don't
talking about
have
her
a
profile.
profile picture, you're an egg.
Oh, okay. I didn't
I'm
know.
not just making this up. Like, this is an
It's just
actual
kind of
thing.
random how
Yeah,
you
she's
brought
an
it up.
egg.
She's an egg.
But
didn't
that's
say you're-
okay. So I'm gonna subtweet other people, Submission Radio, when I talk to them, and they were like, "Well, she's an egg," and I'm like, "So people know what that is." So they're
Okay,
just
yeah,
like,
you are several generations younger than us, so
and they're
that's probably
intellectually superior. So I'm just kidding.
Nice.
Well, perhaps next time you could stay on their podcast. This will be the last invitation you have from ours.
I'm taking your spot.
Wrapping this show up,
Yeah.
Albert, you said that earlier you had mentioned something about a quiz of some sort.
Yes, I have a quiz for both of you, actually.
What is this quiz all about?
Well, as some of you may know, not Fernanda, there's a new podcast out there.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Really?
It's
color me interested. Is that a thing people say?
no.
Why not?
And unfortunately, hold on a sec. I have to get see, hold on.
Because I don't edit these things, Albert. You got to be ready. I can't.
Oh, I thought we were dropping it, honestly.
Because I was planning on trying to be nice and let you at least promote your thing. Well, maybe we don't have to go on the quiz.
Oh no, we got the quiz ready now.
Oh, damn.
You waited too long.
All right.
All
Shame
right.
on me.
And here's a little preamble.
How long
Okay.
is this quiz? Short quiz?
Yeah, it's fairly short. I
Okay.
mean, it's multiple choice.
Okay.
There's only 10 questions.
What? No, you don't have to do 10 questions.
They're quick.
Oh, good
Okay.
Lord.
Maybe. We'll see. You can tap.
Or you'll be trapped forever.
You can
and
tap,
your
you can
life
tap
is
out
over.
whatever you want.
Okay.
So here it goes.
Okay.
Are you a disgusting freak, misunderstood by society, and searching for a place where you belong? Well, I hear the YMCA is taking people. For everyone else who has a healthy curiosity for all things strange and maybe mildly apocalyptic, Odd Normal is the place for you.
Whoa.
Yes.
I thought that was one of the questions.
No, not yet. This is
Oh,
the
okay.
preamble. If you're unsure, if you're an odd normal person, I have a quiz for the two of you. Now, I will allow each of you to tap in a friend if you don't know the answer to this question.
Oh, that takes way too long.
Yeah.
But then, yes, I'll ask a question we'll start off with Fernanda, and then we'll switch over. If you can't answer the question, then you can ask Kenny for help. First question. Who is Diane Robinson? A psychic who's communicated with those that dwell in the hollow earth via the Agartha network. A self-proclaimed priestess.
We're going to do 5 questions.
A self-proclaimed,
This is already going to get with you.
a self-proclaimed priestess of the Dark Dragon Order who uses
Ooh.
sexual fire to entrap the unwary to a life of servitude. A sorceress who feeds on souls, or your mom.
B.
Was that 4 questions? 4 options? Or
I'm
was that
gonna
5?
go with
That's
B.
4. B, a sorceress.
Yeah.
Wrong. She's a psychic who communicates with people in the hollow
God
earth.
damn it,
Whoa.
I'm so bad at this.
Yeah.
That was a pretty awesome question, though.
Yeah.
I was totally into that third chick.
She is
have
pretty
her
hot.
number?
I do have her name and number, and she will get back to you.
Okay, question number 2.
What is
5.
what is social credit? Cold coffee's preferred form of paying for frosty beverages.
Ooh.
The feeling you get when you spend too much time reading social media feeds. A form of credit reporting developed by the Chinese government. Or a financial service Wells Fargo has illegally signed you up for without your knowledge.
Ooh, let's go with the last one.
The last one, you're going last? Wrong. It is a credit form of reporting
Chinese
developed by
one?
the Chinese government, yes.
Damn it.
There's always the Chinese.
Fucking Chinese.
And
They,
I mean
they
that
got
in a
what's
very,
up.
like-
Yeah.
I thought it was going to be that one, but that Wells Fargo one sounded true.
Yeah.
That
But
sounded
that's
legit.
because that's how they get you, Kenny.
Damn it.
They got me too.
So if I answer wrong, am I not supposed to listen to your podcast?
It just means that you need.
I have-
you
oh, I
need,
have
you
knowledge
More,
I need-
Yeah, you need to
Oh.
get
Yeah,
more
Okay,
more
okay,
knowledge.
so far we
Yeah,
need more knowledge. Okay,
yeah.
question number 3.
Where are you more likely to encounter a flugelrad?
What is
The-
that?
the-
That is a language thing, though. I have no idea what that is.
That
Flugelrad.
sounds like a Middle Earth thing.
Okay.
The lost continent of Atlantis.
Ooh.
The icy edges of the flat Earth. Near the opening to the hollow Earth, or the alt-right blogosphere.
I say the Hollow Earth one.
What is the name of the thing?
Flugelrad.
I'll say D.
D.
Alt-right.
Alt-right blogosphere.
Yeah.
Kenny was right.
Oh, god damn it. I just think, like, weird shit happens there. Like, that's my,
That
like...
totally sounded like some BS, like hollow shit world thing. Do they have wizards there in Hollow Earth?
They have everything there. Everything's
That's
better
awesome.
and stranger in the hollow Earth.
I love it.
What is the hollow word?
So was that question 4?
Listen to episode 4.
I'll chalk it up to language, guys. I
Wait,
feel
was that
very
question
ignorant.
That was 4.
Okay,
no,
last question.
This is 4.
Okay.
I think that was 3.
Okay.
So, what is the Jackson King scale of apocalyptic anxiety? The name of Fernanda's Instagram feed. The primary
That's the
metric.
one.
The primary metric for determining one's predilection for candy measured against what they worry it will do to their waistline. A scale developed by Belgian sociologist Sturm Jackson and Johan King used to precisely measure the potential of world-ending events, or Cold Coffee's personal ranking for whether or not he'll make it to the toilet before the shit hits before he shits himself.
That is very factual that could happen. Is it my turn?
It's your turn.
Okay.
Yeah.
What are you feeling? C or B? You think C?
I think C might just be true.
Let's go with C.
He might be just misleading us because of King.
It's a trick question. It was completely made up by us at the Odd Normal podcast.
Was that one of the
But
options?
it is-
Was
that-
that one of the options? Was it made
No,
up?
it was a trick question. It was not
Oh.
options. But we
that's
do
not
use it to
fair.
measure the world ending
That's not
events.
fair.
I know, but it sounds
All right,
great.
last question, last one.
All right, finish this sentence. Robots will take over the world and imprison humanity within a computer-generated simulation of reality called the Bertramverse,
That seems great.
become sentient and replace our old gods,
That seems great too.
rise to a level of complexity which allows them to take over all jobs currently held by a human,
Awesome too.
or destroy capitalism.
Hey,
I love all of them. Can I have all of them? Is that a possibility?
That is the answer! All of the above!
Good. God damn it! I nailed this thing. What do I get?
Well, you actually get yourself a one-way ticket to Odd Normal Land because
Oh,
you
that's-
still need. Yeah, that's shitty,
I'm-
shitty.
I'm scared and aroused.
That's exactly the way you're supposed to feel.
All right, and that's a good one to end on. All right, so how can people find your podcast, Albert?
Just go
I'm sorry,
to
Fiasco, Pepsi guy.
Yes, yeah, Pepsi Fiasco.
What's happening?
Just to go to iTunes, Stitcher, wherever you find podcasts, and search for Odd Normal. You can find us on the Twitters at Odd NRML and Instagram at Odd Normal, and Facebook too is Odd Normal as well.
I love it. Thank you guys very much for hopping on the show tonight. And I think, Fernanda, you raised a good point that the Vitor interview was just strange and oddly fascinating all at the same time. So for all you folks, we're gonna roll this to the Vitor interview, and then John's gonna pick it back up. So thank you very much for joining us here in Rio by proxy of this podcast, and check out Albert's Odd Normal. that's his theme song right there. And be sure to follow Fernanda Prates on Twitter and all the things. Fernanda
Prates underscore.
Just the underscore at the end? That's
Yeah,
so
it's
weird.
brutal. I know. I'm sorry. That's
It's like
what
a tail,
happened.
like
Sorry,
a rat
guys.
tail. Like if you had like a rat tail on your head
That
or something.
is weird.
It is, but whatever. All right, thanks guys for listening. And here's this wonderful interview that Nanda did with Vitor Belfort.
Vitor, I'm just gonna get this one out of the way because it needs
Are
to
you
be
ready?
asked. It needs to be asked.
Just don't ask me 2 questions. Are you ready? How you
Yeah.
feeling? And you have extra tickets.
No,
Tell me. Okay.
none of
Well,
those.
thank
None of
God.
those. Well, the question is, of course, things can happen and you've left that door open, but to this point, are we still calling this your retirement fight?
I'm not retiring because when you retire, you're still
Yeah.
getting paid. I'm not getting paid, so I'm not retiring.
Okay.
But that's
good
my
point.
last fight. That's important because people say, well, okay, what's the legacy you're leaving? Legacy is not what I did for myself. It's what
Yeah.
I'm doing for the next generation. So I think I leave one of the biggest legacy in the sport for sure, worldwide. And I'm not retiring because I'm not getting paid after I finish. So I'm looking for jobs, I'm looking for opportunities. But that's my last fight for sure. And I'm very content with what I accomplished in the sport. But I still believe I can contribute so much with the sport. And I love what UFC is doing, creating the institute, creating all that. But we have so much to do.
Yeah.
Because sometimes when you have so much, a resource, but you gotta have the brains.
Yeah.
Remember that sometimes in life you need both. You need money and brains. And I think now we need people to help make changes for what's coming.
Yeah.
So the barriers that we need to break is going to the Olympics. Okay, what we got to do.
Yeah.
So example, I have a question for you and for everyone. Do you know who make the rules for you for MMA?
What do
Who
you
create
mean?
the rules?
The person?
Yeah, who create the rules? It's important for everyone to know who are the groups or the committee that create the rules.
Yeah.
Because
Transparency.
we need to know. We know
Yeah.
which was this guy, was this. Okay, who are they? And what we need to redo it to
Yeah.
go to the next phase. So volleyball changed some rules and become so popular volleyball. So I think we are on the point to go to the Olympics. We're gonna have to adapt. But if we create another rules, we cannot become like boxing because that's what makes NBA so attractive because people go to the Olympics, they know they're gonna see Kobe Bryant, they know they're gonna. So we wanna go to the Olympics and we wanna see the legends in the Olympics. We don't, so many things we have to do to, and I love what UFC is doing with the Institute. I kind of see what they're doing, creating the data, helping the athletes. But we still, athletes, they don't get paid to train. They only get paid to fight. So we are entertainers.
Yeah.
We're not athletes.
Got it. Since you touched on that, you said one word yourself, retirement. It's not retirement since you're not getting paid.
So
is it something that
it's
also
important
part
for
of
people
that?
to understand.
Yeah.
Because sometimes, remember, I always make these jokes. I think God made a mistake, put me not in America, born in 77 in America. I think I would become, because that's the dream of the land. You see what people can do in America. Unfortunately, in Brazil, it's not easier. It's much tougher. It's a third world country, and we still struggle. But in America is the land of opportunity, and everyone that goes there, they rebuild it and they redo it. So my idea is I went there when I was young, but I didn't have the experience I have today. So today, I have major experience. I read so many books. I did so many courses. So I expand my ability to think and to rationalize and to be rational and to be, okay, you know, it's by the feeling. So I kind of see where we can go.
Yeah.
But when you don't have the power to accomplish that, because that's what I believe, we need to be more like ants and less like tigers. So the difference between two animals, ants, they work together in a group and they're going to accomplish big things. So what we want to accomplish, and that's a very important questions. And I really believe that I see the sport so major that it's just hard to describe the way I see it. But I believe sooner or later I will be able to contribute more than what I did. So I'm excited.
It's interesting because every fight week when we talk to you, we don't really talk about the fight that much because you always have so many ideas and so many plans and you're thinking so many things.
But thinking about, if I'm sitting down here talking about what I'm going to talk, are you ready? And I'm glad that we're not going to ask for tickets.
No,
but you know,
I'm attending. I have my seat.
So I think people are going to be interested to see this interview because they don't see just the fighter. And I think that's the importance to understand.
No, absolutely. But like, how do you, like, it seems like your brain is always processing so much, right? How is it for you to kind of like focus on all the things that you want to achieve and all the things that you do effectively and on your training and in your fight? Like, how do you balance it all out?
It's just like example. My first priority is my kids and my wife, so my family. So I always say I want to contribute to a world better. So how I can do it is raising good kids, raising kids with values, and understand that society, people think differently. They have different beliefs, different genders. So how I can raise these kids to bring to society change? You know, I dream with my kids, okay, what about you can bring the cure for cancer? So I just make them dream, you know, okay, what you can do to change politicians. My son loves, you know, politicians, and he say, Dad, and what do you change? What do you change for make people not die for starvation? So I love to process, not just, and that's who I am. So when time to train, here I'm not training, I'm not fighting, I'm here, I'm talking. So you ask me questions that it's interest for them, because if we're here talking to the fight, just the fighter, okay, what about now? So I'm done with my career, so I'm not gonna be fighting, so I'm gonna work as a bouncer. That's what people, I believe when I start my career, one of my uncles said, Victor, what are you doing with your life? You should do law. What are you going to do? You want to become a bouncer. That's how they think. So you're thinking about Mark Zuckerberg drop out of school. Oh, what are you going to do now? You're going to be just these tech kids? So if the guys that never search and go for the dream and don't be a thinker, don't be a doer, because you can think and not do it. So I think the doers. And I think that's who I am, you know.
And it's interesting because you take a very pragmatic approach to things, but you also seem very like emotionally invested in them as well.
Yeah, because you got to work with passion. You know, if you see the story of Bill Gates, that guy with passion. You know, Steve Jobs, passion. You know, Mark Zuckerberg, passion. Warren Buffett, passion. You know, you name it. All of them passion. Dana White, passion. Lorenzo, passion. So successful people, if they don't work with passion and beliefs, when difficulty comes, they give up. So Roosevelt, one of the greatest presidents America has, passion, you know. And you name it, the leaders. Martin Luther King, so much passion. You know, Beatles, passion. Opera, passion. People that change the world is the people that embrace, think out of the box. So I think you can see me one of this generation that think out of the box. So I'm glad to be a doer and a thinker.
That's it. Whenever you bring up these examples, you're always talking about these guys who accomplish great things, not just in whatever it is that they did, right? Like for the world. Like, do you think about that for yourself? Like, okay, you have this legacy in fighting, and nobody can take that away from you because it's done.
But that's the thing,
life,
because I don't know if they know what legacy is, because when you talk about legacy, is what they leave for the next generation. It's not what you did for myself. So example, legacy, like let's give an example. Okay, legacy is not how many titles you, example, Floyd Mayweather, what's the legacy he lives for the sport? It's not being undefeated. That's not his legacy. That's his career. Legacy, what he's doing for the next generation that comes along. Oh, I paved that, I did that. Now it's for you to go and benefit from this, what I did. So example, talking about terms of politicians. Politicians serve 4 years of government. What's the legacy usually a politician leave for the next guy, even if he's going to go to re-election again? What's the legacy? They live in debts. They did something better. So that's for me is legacy. So it's very important for people to understand legacy is not my career, is not my accomplishment, it's what I left for the next generation.
It's a big occasion for you, right? It's your final fight, and in a place like this, and with a guy who you really seem to respect a lot. It's a big fight for Brazilians. So you're, like I said, a very pragmatic guy. But do you think that, does that make you emotional? Do you think about the emotion that the emotional moment that this might be?
No, I think it's that I'm taking it all in. You know, I'm enjoying the process. So I like what Gustavo was saying to me. What's the best thing in the movie since the beginning and the end? It's not even the beginning, it's not even the end. It's the whole thing, it's the whole history. It's the point of A to point B. So it's not the point, it's what is between A and B. So the fight's gonna happen Saturday. You know, I'm ready, I'm prepared, Lyoto's ready, prepared. The fans will be there. So what about enjoy it every second, you know, when I'm talking, when I'm waking up, when I'm cutting weight. So many things I have to do to Saturday. So why not take it a day? So people is always trying to anticipate tomorrow. No, live today. And I have a quote that I always said, you know, the yesterday is a canceled check, tomorrow is a promissory note, today's cash on hand. So doing today your best, you know. Who knows who's gonna wake up tomorrow? Maybe we are talking to someone right now that want to take his life away. Oh man, my life cannot. You know, who told you done? Who told you cannot accomplish? Who told you this failure is the end? Maybe it's the beginning. Look what failure represent for these great thinkers. Failures represent success, and the problem is what people are putting pressure in themselves. The failure is a bad thing. No, I celebrate failures with my kids. I always ask them, okay, tell me something you failed today. Let's see how we can make it better. So I want to make them understand. And for example, today David is going to start his preseason football. He's a QB quarterback. And I said, David, why do you think in football they have four down? Why they have 4 tries, the quarterback? Why is not just 1 try? It's because he has 4 chances to make 1. And then he had it again. And then he have it again. And we have an example of Tom Brady. He's an example of never giving up. And then he can change a game with 1 play. In basketball, the same thing. 1 play. So why not in life, you know? Why not in fighting? Why not in cooking? Why not in whatever endeavor you choose? You can be successful. And remember, success is not how much money you have.
Yeah.
Success about values, what you bring in, what you're nurturing people around you, what you're nurturing people, you know, close to you. So I think my perspective of success is not just having power and have authority or having the power of the pen. It's what you're doing for the people that is not even close to you, but they can nurture. Like this interview, how much I'm giving to them, how much we are giving to them, not me because you're here. So how much we are giving to the people that we're maybe talking to the future president of any country, or maybe you're talking
but
to...
But no pressure.
Yeah, but you know, that's the beauty, you know, point A and point B, just enjoy the journey.
Leslie, so on Sunday when you wake up, like one thing you know, like you won't be Vitor the fighter.
Well, why not?
You still be Vitor the fighter?
Always. Yeah. Because I'm going to take whatever endeavor I'm doing. Victor is a fighter. Victor is a guy who's never giving up. Victor is a guy who can see opportunity, see optimism. Okay, let's go try one more time. You know, no, let's not back down. You know, let's just find another way. I think fighting, it's in my DNA wherever I go.
All right, well, there you have it. Cold coffee bringing it like you knew he would. All the insight from Brazil. You know he's rounding everybody up, getting you the information that you need. Vitor Belfort, man, the look was amazing. Hopefully you've seen the images. The bathrobe. I mean, I love Vitor. I do wish I could have been there this week to do Vitor's retirement interview. Fernanda Prates did a fine job with well, I should not say retirement interview. The interview before his final fight. I would have loved to have done that just because Vitor's such an interesting cat. And, of course, we do have some history. You know, there's certainly no doubt. We've had some low moments in our relationship. You know, him asking for people to beat me up at a press conference was one that'll go down in the record books. But, you know, we've long since worked things out. And certainly have a lot of respect for his time in the sport. You can say what you will about his questionable path along the way, and I think that's fair. I think all those questions that you want to ask are fair. I mean, the TRT era, oh, man, you know, looking back at it, it's so easy to be like, man, that's stupid. What were we thinking? How do we ever allow that to happen? But there was a time when, you know, we were kind of hailing it as a miracle medicine, you know, for these fighters who put their bodies through something crazy, and that, you know, to think that they could, you know, lengthen their careers was something I think a lot of us were down with, you know, and of course guys like Michael Bisping, you know, suffered permanent damage at the hands of Vitor Belfort. So an interesting career for sure, and an interesting man, and you know, love him or hate him, and I know a lot of people fall on both sides of that fence. The guy is one of the pioneers, man, and this is gonna be it. You know, this is gonna be it. So bummed I didn't get to that interview, and bummed I won't get to see that final walk. But again, no regrets. Happy I stayed home here to be with the family. Listen, I like this card. You know, UFC 224 going up against Bellator 199. A lot of MMA to take in. You know, if you've got the two TV setup, you do it like that, handle your business like that. If you don't, I mean, if you only could watch one card, I mean, one of them is going to cost you $60. If they're free, I mean, if you're not factoring in the fact that there's $60 on the line, you know, I probably watch UFC 224. Again, Vitor Belfort, Lyoto Machida. That's a very important fight there in the history of those two men. Brian Kelleher versus John Lineker could be fun. I'm anxious to see this Amanda Cooper-Mackenzie Dern fight. Amanda Cooper seems hell-bent on demolishing the hype train. And Mackenzie Dern, you know, the questionable preparation, what's going into this? Is it going to be problematic? We'll see. Kelvin Gastelum versus Jacare Souza. Man, I'm just waffling back and forth on my pick for that one. I ended up going with Jacare for the staff picks, but man, Kelvin Gastelum, when he's on, and you can certainly see that being problematic. And, you know, Amanda Nunes versus Raquel Pennington, and I think this is the reason, because this card to me is good, but I think, you know, Amanda Nunes just seems like such a big favorite here, and I don't want to discount Raquel Pennington, but Amanda Nunes, you know, the role that she's on, the time off that Pennington has had, I get why Nunes is such a huge favorite. And so because of that, you know, I think it's that headliner that's causing people to maybe be a little hesitant to buy in. I mean, I do wonder, had Rafael dos Anjos and Colby Covington taken place on this card, you know, would it have the hype even more to another level? I don't know, because that still leaves you with a Nunes-Pennington main event. I don't think you could put an interim title fight of dos Anjos versus Covington above Nunes versus Pennington. I don't think that would make sense. I think it would, you know, it's disrespectful, number one. It's just not the way you do. I mean, you could do whatever the hell you want. It's your organization. If you're the UFC, you can do whatever the hell you want. But following along with the way things how things should be done, I don't think you could. And listen, Raquel Pennington is tough, and if she can survive that early onslaught, she can counterpunch, she can push the pace on Amanda. Maybe she can tire her out in the later rounds. I mean, things can happen, but I get it. You know, sometimes when a fight looks like it's potentially one side on paper, it doesn't captivate people's attention, and then that hurts the rest of the card, because, you know, there are some fun fights on this card. Meanwhile, you got Bellator 199, Ryan Bader versus King Mo Lawal in the main event, the final heavyweight Grand Prix opening round fight. You got Paul Daly versus John Fitch intriguing from a name value, if nothing else. Aaron Pico, of course, versus Lee Morrison. I've said it. I said it last week. I'm a big fan of Aaron Pico, and I think he's turning out to be everything we thought he would be. Javier Ayala versus Czech Congo is happening. Carrington Banks versus Adam Piccolotti as well. I think there's some fights that are worth paying attention to on both cards. No question about that. If you can watch them both at the same time, do it. If you can watch them both at some point, just make sure you get it done. I don't know what I'm going to be doing yet. I don't know what my work assignment yet is going to be. I'm out of the mix, so we'll see. I imagine I'll probably be quarterbacking a little bit of both fights. So we'll find out. Listen, just to looking ahead a little bit. Next week, unfortunately, tried to make it work, but will not be going down to Chile for Demian Maia versus Kamaru Usman. Bummed about that. Granted, that card on paper, I understand why the bosses didn't want to commit the resources to going to cover it, but I was looking forward to going to the first South American event outside of Brazil, and I am actually really intrigued by Maia versus Usman. We'll certainly talk about that next week. There's a couple other fights in the card that look like they'll be a lot of fun. Maybe not the click-heavy fights that you would like to see if you're investing money in sending people to go cover it, so I get it. But I will be in Liverpool for that fight, which I'm definitely looking forward to, with Stephen Thompson, the Wonder Boy, versus Darren Till, the Gorilla. Couple weeks out. That card's still having a little trouble as well. Trying to find an opponent for Neil Magny. Neil Magny, I know, basically represents himself. I don't believe he has a manager, if I've got that right. And he and George Masvidal have been going back and forth a little bit, online. But Stephen Morocco had been in touch with Neil, who I think had basically said, look, I haven't been offered that fight. Like, I understand Masvidal is talking about it. And I had talked to some reps from Masvidal's side who had already said, like, yeah, we've already been told we're not getting the fight. And I said, well, do you know who is getting it? And they're like, no, I'm not sure. I just know we're not getting it. So it sounds like that fight's kind of dead in the water. And I know Masvidal keeps pushing it, but it doesn't sound like it's happening. So I don't know what's happening. I mean, you hate to pull that fight off that card. I mean, gosh, listen, ticket sales, that thing sold out instantly. And it would have sold out instantly if it was just Wonder Boy and Darren Till. Liverpool's own, of course, they're going to stand up for Darren Till. And I don't think they care too much about what else is on the card. But I think fans would like to see it. I think they'd like to have some more fights than that. I think they'd like to do some more things than that. And it does get, as far as entertainment, Jason Knight versus Makwan Amirkhani. Oh, looking forward to that one. But, look at those big, meaningful, ranked fights that you'd like to have in your co-main event, that you'd like to have up at the top. Yeah, it sounds like they need to have somebody for New. It sounds like maybe there's a European replacement that may be announced even by the time this podcast gets out. But it doesn't sound like that Masvidal fight's happening. So anyway, hopefully they'll pull that together. But I will be there for that one. Our man Abby Saban will actually be up on weigh-in day and for the fights itself. But he and Shamakar Sandhu, they'll be handling Bellator 200, which is the same weekend. Crazy that Bellator and UFC are both doing events in England 2 days apart. Bellator 200 in London, Mirko Krokop versus Roy Nelson in the main event there. Rafael Carvalho versus Gegard Mousasi for the middleweight title. Michael Venom Page. Some big fights here as well. So a good card. It's interesting because from our understanding, most of the media is based in London in the UK, at least a big portion of them. Because of that, they're going to do the London card, and then a lot of them are hopping on basically a big van that they've chartered and everybody kind of chipped in on, and they're all going to head up after the fights on Bellator 200 and try to make it in town in time for the early weigh-ins. They're basically going to drive through the night on a chartered van, try to make it to the early weigh-ins, and then there will be ceremonial weigh-ins that afternoon in Liverpool, and then they're going to get everything done early because Liverpool is playing in the Champions League final, big soccer game, basically the European Championships, that will actually take place in Russia. But Liverpool earned their way into that final game against Real Madrid. So that'll be a big night in Liverpool as well. hopefully we can grab a pint or two that night and watch a soccer game. But I'll be in Liverpool all week, having everything, all the pre-fight coverage there, and then those guys will join me. But we'll have coverage of both those. So that's kind of what we got coming up on the MMA Junkie front. Other than that, listen, I'm gonna go back to being with my family. It's my last day of vacation, but I had to duck out and say hello to everybody. Had to keep the streak alive. 163 straight weeks. We never miss on the MMA Roadshow, even if there's a little vacation. But I tell you what. My son is home from field day. He's hanging out there. My mom is here. We're getting ready. My wife is helping get the house ready for a big birthday party on Saturday before we get to cranking on those 2 fights. So I'm going to go enjoy a little bit of that. And besides, I'm just bitter that I'm not down in Brazil on the beaches drinking some frosty beverages. Bastards. Back in the mix soon. Thanks for listening.